Do you know where the quietest place on earth is?
And what would it sound like, guys, to be there? And why you would likely go insane? Is it noon?
Oh, it's noon.
Hey guys, it's Leonad from Leonad Comics. I draw comic books for YouTube, and thanks for staying up till noon.
Thanks for that intro, and thanks for staying up till noon. My name is Quiet Ryan.
My name is Loud Ass Cory.
Thank you for that intro, and of course, if you guys want to participate in the intro and have us shout you out, clicking the I right here will take you to a video and explain the whole procedure for you. Really nice and easy.
Right, guys, we love to do shoutouts and get you in our episodes.
Yes.
Anyways, guys, right into this one here. Mention some of our sources. Fortune.com, digitaltrends.com, and dailymail.co.uk for some of this amazing information. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So the quietest place on earth, guys, is actually a room. It's been said that it's where sound goes to die. Do you have a guess as to who owns this room? Who's the title holder? Who could do such a thing?
Well, for the longest time, the champion was a place in Minneapolis called the Orfield Labs, but the new champ is none other than Microsoft.
Who else would do this?
Microsoft.
Microsoft's not going to stand idly by and not have the quietest place in the room in the world, right? No, but there's a reason why, guys. Microsoft claimed the unusual title early this month, and it set the Guinness World Records for the quietest place on earth. At its headquarters in Redmond, Washington, the company built a room so soundproof that it not only blocks out noise on the outside, but it also muffles sound on the inside. The room sits on top of its own foundation, separate from the rest of the building, and the entire room sits on springs.
Wow. This episode, we're going to tell you more about this amazing room, as well as we ask the question, what would it sound like in the quietest room in the world?
And how long could you last? That's right, guys. Getting back to the room now. It shattered the previous record for silence. Its average background noise only comes out to negative 20.35 decibels, or unimaginably quiet, says the Guinness Records. Why does Microsoft have a room like this? And what is it called, you ask? The company plans to use the room to test its hardware and audio technology. Microsoft's slogan accompanying this project is, "Where precision is paramount, every decibel counts."
Oh, Microsoft uses it for its own hardware, for things like Cortana. You guys know what Cortana is? Other chambers like previous record holder in Minneapolis, excuse me. Just having a little tickle in my throat there. The chamber for a multitude of reasons in Minneapolis. It is used for formal product testing, for research into the sound of different things, such as heart valves, which is creepy to think about, the sound of the display of a cell phone, the sound of a switch on a car dashboard.
Yeah, you just don't think
you don't think of that stuff.
Like, no, it's crazy.
Why would you?
These chambers are often used to determine the quality of the sound, not just the volume.
Yeah, exactly. That makes a little bit of sense. Like
what hums and ticks, and what are you going to eventually hear and go, what the hell's that sound, and why is my phone buzzing, and all that other stuff. Companies such as washing machine maker Whirlpool or motorbike maker Harley Davidson use these chambers to make their products sound quieter or cleaner, or like we said, of higher quality.
Yeah.
Product testing often occurs for how something sounds, as companies are looking for proper sound or an expensive sound is how they label it, and not a low quality sound, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like we mentioned, you talk about a rattling of something like a phone case or like a washing machine, and you just might not hear a certain buzz and everything.
Yeah, especially when there's sound nearby. Like in this room, you'll be able to hear it.
And like people so often associate with how something sounds with it being cheap or expensive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It could function so well, it could be perfect, and you're like, man, this thing sounds like it's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it's just a normal sound. Well,
exactly.
Companies spend an atrocious amount of money, like Microsoft in this case, to try to make things sound rich and expensive.
Yeah. So this type of room is known as anechoic chamber. Anechoic chamber?
I think it's an. I have such a hard time. I think I looked it up. And it's an anechoic.
Anechoic.
I say it wrong every time.
Yeah, anechoic.
Anechoic chamber.
Few people know what an anechoic chamber is, but we're going to explain to you, even if you have had the chance to experience it, of course, as well. An anechoic chamber, meaning non-reflective, non-echoing, or echo-free, is a room designed to completely absorb reflection of either sound or electromagnetic waves. They are also insulated from exterior sources of noise.
Very cool, eh? Microsoft's chamber is able to reach a mind-bending negative 20.35, or they have said it's gotten as low as minus 20.6 decibels.
Jeez.
So how is less than zero possible? Since decibels measure a reference point on a logarithmic scale, zero does not actually represent absolute silence as you might think. Rather, zero in this case refers to the lowest level of sound a human can detect. So anything below zero is just crazy, like especially to us.
Yeah.
In reality, total silence is much further away from what we can hear, and as of now, Microsoft has gotten closer to it than anyone else on record.
Measurements inside Microsoft New Digs registered just a couple of decibels above the quietest point physically possible to be reached on our little blue planet.
That's crazy, eh?
Which is set theoretically at minus 23 decibels.
So they're close.
They're getting they're getting there. Which takes into account only the sound created by air molecules as they interact with one another.
That's the quietest point.
Yeah.
Is air molecules.
The only way to get quieter than that is to take a trip to a vacuum of space.
Yeah, go out to space.
Go up to space.
But is silence really that golden, guys? What would it sound like to stay in this room? A negative decibel room, a room where you become the sound. For the longest time, the most anyone had lasted in the Minneapolis chamber was 45 minutes. Although now I have seen videos out there of people that have been in there in excess of an hour. So it's before they had said, nobody can handle it, but there are some people who really can have mind over matter.
Yeah, for sure.
Most people say that they feel like they would go insane, or they start to absolutely freak out and start to panic. And
which makes sense.
We're gonna explain a little bit why.
People have even reported that they start to hallucinate. When it's quiet, ears will adapt. The quieter the room, the more things you hear. You'll hear your heart beating, your lungs, and your stomach gurgling loudly.
Can you imagine?
Like Cory said, in an anechoic chamber, you become the sound. It is a very disoriented experience, so much that sitting down is a must. You can't stand, which makes sense.
Because how we orient ourselves is through sounds that we hear when we're walking.
Exactly.
That's how people balance themselves. That's why you hear often if people lose their hearing suddenly, like they don't have time in their life to adapt. If you have a loud gunshot in your ear or something and you go deaf, you have trouble balancing. And in the anechoic chamber, you don't have any of these cues. You take away the perceptual cues that allow you to balance and maneuver. If you're in there for a half an hour, they say you have to be in a chair.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
And like Ryan mentioned, people that have been in the chamber report they can hear blood flowing through their veins. They can hear their heart amplified. It then heightens the sound and the feeling of vibration. And often for this reason, people start to get like major anxiety attacks, thinking that their heart's going to beat out of their chest.
Wow.
They hear things like the opening and closing of their eyes, like sloshing and like the squishing of fluids.
You know what? You were mentioning that you hear your heart beating. Have you ever heard of what it sounds like when a joint moves?
Yeah,
like when you hear it really up close. We'll try to find a clip. It might be kind of hard to find. I did see it on like the Discovery Channel. When your joints move, it sounds like you're rattling like a bag of chicken breast and bones. It goes like it sounds so bad.
Exactly, bones rubbing and cracking, breathing. They say
breathing would be terrible.
You start to think that something's wrong with you because you hear like you don't realize that your breathing isn't a nice clean in and out. Like you hear gurgling, you hear like noises, and just people used to say the hollow, empty feeling in the room. Like it just makes you feel like the room's like closing in on you almost. Like it's just crazy. Just think about all the other types of things, all the daily sounds that your body makes.
NASA, good old NASA, right, guys?
Haven't mentioned them for a while. Haven't mentioned NASA for a while.
NASA, meanwhile, uses a similar chamber to test its astronauts. They are put in a water-filled tank inside the room to see how long it takes before hallucinations take place and whether they could work through it. Because space is one giant anechoic chamber, basically, it's completely soundproof. So it's crucial that astronauts are able to stay focused.
Yep.
Yikes.
That's crazy.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know. Would you actually want to go on that?
I would like to. I really would. Like, obviously, I'm not saying I'd be a hero and I can do it, but this is something that just interests the hell out of me. Like, I would love to go in there, even if it's for 5 minutes.
And you can apply to go in there. Like,
you can.
But it's like the wait time is just like huge.
It's crazy. There was an article that this one guy wrote that. The reason why I mentioned that people have stayed longer than 45 minutes is there's one article I read where he was there for a little bit over, and he says he thinks he could have stayed there for a long time because it was just mind over matter, and he really, really liked the sound of just absolute peace, and he was tuned in with his body,
Oh,
but he
okay.
only booked like 45 minutes,
Oh,
and they
I
ended up
see.
he ended up staying in there like 50 minutes, and then they said time's up kind of
Time's
thing.
up, yeah.
But there's on the opposite end. There's people who have gone in there, and one guy was like a violinist or something who
Oh my
who's
God.
used to all this sound. He was out in like 2 minutes. He was beating the door down. Like
Wow.
he just said he was just gonna go crazy.
You know, like you hold the world record for that. Why don't you just find somebody who's like deaf and be like, yeah, no, I'm going to stay in there.
Yeah.
He hears nothing to begin with, so you'd be fine. So yes, we'd love to hear what you guys thought about this episode. And of course, if I would love to see somebody who actually went in that room and
Yeah.
commented down below. So please let us know down below what you think of this episode.
That's right, guys. Like, share, subscribe. All other information about us, including our merch shop, visit our website, uptillnoon.com.
Yes, and stay tuned for a final spoonful at noonful.
Thanks for
Thank
watching.
you.
The largest anechoic chamber in the world is the Edwards Air Force Base, used for testing some of the largest equipment in all kinds of airplanes. It's a staggering 66,000 square feet by 70 feet high steel hangar building with 816,000 pyramidal foams. It's been said to resemble the Mario Galaxy level.
And as always,
Thanks for staying up till noon.